Konnichiwa minasan, I'm Matayu and this is Manga You May Have Missed. That said, today we're not looking at a manga. Instead, we will cast our gaze on a manhwa. Now I know what you're thinking. The heck is a manhwa? Manhwa is the Korean equivalent to Japanese manga. It means and refers to comics. As I read this, please take into consideration that I have never heard Korean and have no experience with Korean culture, so I might mispronounce every name I say. With that in mind, today's manhwa is Blade of Heaven. Blade of Heaven was written by Hwang Young-soo and illustrated by Yang Kyung-il. It was published in Korea by Daewon CI. The English translation was published in North America by Tokyopop, and by Madman Entertainment in Australia and New Zealand. The series is at least 15 volumes, but only the first 10 were ever published through Tokyopop. Blade of Heaven is the translation name. The original is closer to The Legend of Soma, Soma being the main protagonist. There is very little other information to be found on the manhwa. The Korean Wikipedia doesn't even have an article on it. The manhwa's title page shows Soma posing with the titular blade. There's no chapter title. The story begins with an exterior shot of the Sky Palace prison chamber. A girl is looking at a door with a seal on it. From within, someone is ranting about being accused of theft by, quote, Sky World bastards, unquote. He says that they can't discriminate against him just because he's human. Oh, and I forgot to mention earlier, Blade of Heaven, or its translation at least, reads from left to right. And who is this human? Well, when they talk of the world's greatest swordsman, the paragon of strength and masculinity, they're talking of him, Soma. He is, unfortunately, a little tied up at the moment. Suspended upside down in the middle of the room, he questions the logic of the world's greatest swordsman needing to steal the Blade of Heaven, and sheds abuse at someone called General Winter. The door opens, right to left remember, and the girl enters, motioning Soma to be quiet. She asks if Soma is his name and if he's really from the human world. She investigates Soma's face, to his annoyance, and states that his eyes, nose, and lips look like hers. However, they are different in some places. She means her boobs. She deduces that he is male and asks for confirmation. However, Soma lacks the mustache that the girl's father and the aforementioned General Winter have. She tells him that she really wants to go to the human world. She speaks of the beauty of scentful flowers and blue oceans, and of how she really wants to see them. Soma, pissed at being unable to talk, interjects to say that conditions are horrible in the human world. Summers are scorching hot, winters are freezing cold, and people have to fight for survival every day. He can find no beauty in that. The girl tells him that he's acting like a child, and that she is easily surviving in the boring and dreary sky world. Soma questions her choice of words, and the girl says that only a child wouldn't appreciate how fun the human world is, again confusing Soma. He tries to tell her of the human world's circumstances, but the girl interrupts to say that she can release him if he agrees to take her to the human world. He is interested in this offer. He asks if the girl can undo his bonds, and the girl responds that despite her looks, this is easy for her. Her solution is to explode the chains off Soma. He, and his twin-bladed sword, fall to the floor as the girl wonders if her spell was too strong. Soma moves to leave, and the girl asks him to slow down. However, their departure is interrupted by a sound effect. An old man with a spear has broken down the door. He charges Soma, accusing him of tempting the sweet, naive princess and attempting to escape. The man has a mustache, but refers to the girl by her title, so by process of elimination, this is General Winter, or as Soma calls him, General Shit. The two are prepared to fight when the girl, or rather the princess, interposes herself in between them. General Winter asks her to move out of the way, then launches an attack anyway. He misses the princess and Soma jumps out of the way. He says he'll teach Soma a lesson the human will never forget, but Soma believes he can learn nothing from an inferior fighter. The fight continues. Soma says Winter has no strength due to his age, and that old people should roll over and die. Winter begs the forgiveness of heaven for his next blow, intended to be mortal. He unleashes his North Wind Strike. The attack breaks the floor. The princess cries out for Soma as Winter realizes he's caused the collapse of the chamber. Outside, the Sky Palace prison chamber explodes. Winter and the princess are left standing in the rubble. Winter realizes that Soma used the strength of the North Wind Strike to escape. Soma, meanwhile, has absconded but runs into someone. He asks the man who he is. That mustache. The princess confirms that this man is indeed the king. The monarch blocks Soma's way on the bridge leading to the main part of the sky world. The prison was on an island. Soma calls the king a fat ass and yells at him to move. He says he'll show no mercy to anyone who gets in his way and pulls out his sword. The king merely grins. Soma, to Winter's shock, charges the king. The king opens his eyes. Two serpents made of water rise up next to Soma, and the chapter ends. Yeah, 20 pages doesn't make for a complete review, so on to chapter 2. The title page is a 2-page spread of Soma dodging the serpent's attacks. He wonders what the hell the things are, as one he dodged slams into the bridge and the other goes to swallow him. Soma slices the serpent, which collapses into water. However, to his surprise, it reforms into the beast. In fact, many heads grow out of the body and attack Soma. They wrap around his body, and I have seen enough hentai to know exactly where this is going. The water hoists him up into the air, and he yells at the king not to use monsters, but instead fight like a man. The king corrects him and says that the serpents, or dragons as he calls them, are not monsters or spells. Winter drops some exposition explaining that the pool that the bridge runs over is called the Pond of Heart's Reflection. It's the second of the Sky World's 3 treasures, the first being the Blade of Heaven. The princess chimes in to explain that if someone with an evil heart looks into the water, an evil monster rises out. However, if a, quote, cute, warm, pretty, and unbelievably nice princess, unquote, looks into the water, never mind. Soma expresses disbelief and the dragon reacts. The princess tells him to stop being a stubborn idiot because that will only make the dragon more violent. Soma declares that he will never succumb and the dragon sprouts spines. The spines appear to thrust into Soma, and I have not seen enough hentai to know where this is going. General Winter says that Soma only has himself to blame since the spikes are the production of his own stubbornness. The princess scolds him for the uncharitable thoughts. Soma says he will never. The king muses at Soma's stubbornness, then dispels the dragons. Soma is shocked to learn the beasts were really made of water. He pokes the puddle left behind with his sword, and the dragon spouts again. The king takes kindly to Soma, but Winter objects that Soma is a thief. In rebuttal, Soma asks for proof. Winter says that Soma was seen near the armory around the time of the theft. Soma cuddles up to the king and claims that General Winter abused him. Winter protests that the human is lying and spouts more exposition. From him, we learn that Soma has been obsessed with swords all his life, and that his title of World's Greatest Swordsman is self-appointed. Apparently, Soma has done all sorts of evil in the world. That's why his name is Soma. The Chinese characters in his name literally mean little demon. Soma eventually ignores the king entirely and starts yelling at Winter, so much that it harms the old man's blood pressure. The king shouts for Soma's attention, but merely laughs. Suddenly serious, the king asks Soma bluntly, "Did he take the Blade of Heaven?" Soma, also serious, says he did not. The king chooses to believe him. However, as the Blade of Heaven is essential for the Skyworld's protection, the king lets Soma go on the condition that he find the blade and return it to the Skyworld. As for the princess, who committed the treason of freeing a criminal and not showing any remorse, she is sentenced to follow Soma and assist him in his quest. Aww, Daddy loves his little girl. General Winter resurrects a protest. How can the king allow a human criminal to not only recover the Blade of Heaven, but take care of the princess as well? The king, anticipating this, says he'll task General Winter with protecting the princess on her journey. He whispers to Winter that this was his plan all along. Winter, excited to be off, runs to the side of the bridge and jumps off, heading for the human world. The princess is just as enthusiastic, grabbing Soma's hand and jumping off, to his horror. Soma shrieks all the way down, which Winter finds funny. The three crash land in a swamp. Later that night, in the Skyworld, an old woman is bemoaning her husband's leaving without saying goodbye. Her name is Nurse Belle, as the king informs us as he walks up behind her, and she's referring to General Winter. Belle says she's actually more worried about the princess. The king is silent. Belle thinks to herself how sad the king looks. The king is worried about the changing worlds. The Skyworld secrets are being exposed, but the demon world is remaining silent for now. He remarks to Belle that the three he sent to find the Blade of Heaven might hold the fate of the Skyworld in their hands. However, he is certain they will do fine. The end. Although there is Korean animation, Blade of Heaven does not have an adaptation. When I looked online, I kept getting directed to the 2011 Blade anime based on the Marvel character. Blade of Heaven, although not completely translated, is a very fun read. However, I am sorry. We've had 2 sword-based series in a row. Next time will be something shoujo, I promise.
Do you like my sword, 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 my diamond sword, sword? You cannot afford, for my diamond sword, sword. Even if you could, I have a patent. No one else can be